Good day, everyone. I am Jason Joyce Viola. So for today, I'm going to talk about the story of Otis and Epiotis and Daedalus. So, Otis and Epiotis. In Greek mythology, the Allodae or Allods were Otus and Epiotis, sons of Epimethea, wife of Aloysius by Poseidon, whom she induced to make her pregnant by going to the seashore and disporting herself in the surf or scooping seawater in her bosom. From Aloysius, they received their patronymic the Allodae. So, the introductions of the character and their characteristics, Othus and Ephialtes are enormous twins, sons of Poseidon. They think they are better than the gods and aggressively challenge them on several occasions. First, they kidnap Ares until the stealthy Hermes sets him free. Next, they try to put one mountain on top of another. Just as Zeus is going to strike them down with a thunderbolt, Poseidon begs to save them, and Zeus agrees. Finally, they try to capture Artemis, but the clever goddess runs away when she sees the twins. The twins chase her, even as she runs over water, until she disappears. In her place, Othus and Ephialtes see a beautiful white animal. They both throw spears at it, but it disappears as well, and the two spears hit the two giants instead. Artemis does and acts revenge. So the plot, before their birth, the coming of the twins was foretold. They were sons of Poseidon and could not be killed by either god or man. Mighty Zeus' thunderbolts were useful, as was Heracles' strength. As the boys grew into a giant, they learned arrogance and the anger that comes from invulnerability. Ephialtes decided that he desired the goddess Hera and spent long evenings envisioning how he would dominate and violate the proudest and noblest of the goddesses. Othos preferred Artemis, the virgin lady of wild things. For his rape subject, he would do what no other could. They had great strength and mighty issues that the spear. Rightly, the twins discounted the brute strength of the cats. They were male and looked only to the male strength as a strength. The female power, that of wit, was never considered. So Otis and Ephialtes set off for Olympus, planning to crush the gods before them and set themselves up as the new ruler of the world. During their siege, they locked up Ares in a little bronze jar for 13 months. They had taken over Olympus soon, and there appeared to be no hope for the Olympians. During a break in the battle, Otis and Ephialtes called for Hera and Artemis repeatedly. Time after time, they were refused, until at last, miraculously, the goddesses accepted. Or rather, Artemis did. He still refused vehemently. Artemis went to Othos and said if he would let out Ares, he could do with her what he would. Othos was ecstatic, but Ephialtes wasn't too happy. The brothers began to quarrel, and when they weren't looking, Artemis turned into a deer. When the fighting reached a peak, she sprang between them as a white dew. Both men broke off and threw their spears at the lovely creature, but they were so distracted, and she was so fast, that the spears missed. Not only did they miss, but Artemis had set them up so that when they threw, what actually impaled was the brothers. So Otus and Ephialtes accomplished what none of the gods could do. They killed each other. Artemis returned to Olympus, and heroine Hera retained her dignity. Ares they left in the jar a little longer. No one liked him very much. So the analysis. The myth of Otus and Ephialtes is a classic tale of egotism. Otus and Ephialtes lead the gods to reassert their supreme power by showing the surprising amount of power they have themselves. The two powerful giants engage in a rather effective rebellion, one more effective than many other in Greek mythology. Again, do they fall? What is more, Artemis tricks and punishes them in the end. As Artemis successfully takes revenge against the twins, she highlights the recurring theme that ingenuity is often more important than brute strength. That theme is made particularly clear through gender in this deal. A female character defeats a two enormous strong male characters. At the same time, we cannot forget that the power of gods trumped the power of human regardless of gender. So the attempt to capture the beautiful goddess recalls the myth of Daphne and Arethusa. In this case, of course, the female character not only escapes the male but actually defeats him in the process. So the theme. The myth of Otus and Ephialtes is a classic tale of egotism. Otus and Ephialtes lead the gods to reassert their supreme power by showing the surprising amount of power they have themselves. The two powerful giants engage in a rather effective rebellion, one more effective than many others in Greek mythology. So the moral lesson, women are strong like a man, too much abusing your power will drag you down. So symbolism, Otus and Ephialtes, egotism, the practice of talking and thinking about oneself excessively because of an undue sense of self-importance. So the next story is all about Daedalus. In Greek mythology, Daedalus was a skillful architect and craftsman, seen as a symbol of wisdom, knowledge, and power. He is the father of Icarus, the uncle of Perdix, and possibly also the father of Lapix. So the introductions of character and their characteristics. Daedalus is the brilliant architect who constructed the labyrinth for the Minotaur in Crete. When King Minos learns that Theseus has escaped from it, he knows that Daedalus must have helped him out. So the plot. As punishment, Minos put Daedalus and his son Icarus in the labyrinth, even they cannot find a way out along the path. Daedalus built himself and his son's wings out of wax and feathers. He warns Icarus not to fly too high because the sand will melt the wings. As they're flying in their escape, excitement and power overtake Icarus, and he flies too high. The sun melts his wings, the boy falls to the oceans, and the waters swallow him up. So, the analysis. God punished Daedalus because he killed the best and then used the string to find his way out of the labyrinth. When King Minos discovered what had happened, he was furious to punish Daedalus for his rule in the escape. The king imprisoned him and his young son Icarus in the labyrinth. The wingscape Daedalus put his talent to work. The famous myth of Daedalus first highlights the recurring theme of human ingenuity. Daedalus knew how to make a labyrinth and now figures out how to escape it. But the tale also illustrates the dangers of youthful arrogance, like Python. Icarus disregards his father's advice and flies carelessly to his death. The father and son relationship also comes to the forefront in the story of Daedalus. Like Apollo, who loves Phaeton but cannot save him from his youthful mistake, Daedalus is rendered helpless in saving Icarus. For all ingenuity, Daedalus cannot solve the generational problem that exists between him and his son. The son makes his own mistake despite his father's advice and suffers the consequences. So the theme of the story is two prominent themes in the myth of Daedalus and Icarus are technology and pride. Daedalus was a very intelligent man, so the moral lesson, Daedalus and Icarus, like most myth, teaches as a lesson. Daedalus tells his son, don't fly too close to the sun, since it is not likely that any of us will wear wings made of feathers and wax. The main idea or theme of this story is not a literal lessons about how high to fly. So the symbolisms is Daedalus, symbol of wisdom, knowledge, and power. And that's all for the Otus, Beatus, and Daedalus.